Hi folks, my name's Dane and welcome to the recap for the November Words4Every1 Writers Group. This takes place at the Arts4Every1 Centre in High Wycombe. I'm actually pre-recording this one before the session, so hopefully I'll be able to send this out sort of shortly afterwards, which will be nice because I've fallen behind with these a little bit. So in this session we're going to have another set of 11 writing tips and tricks and some marketing tricks as well. A writing activity, then it's got some editing workshops, and we've got a guest speaker which is Elaine Will as well, who is an award-winning Canadian graphic novelist. She's touring the UK at the moment as part of her Look Straight Ahead tour. We'll also have some readings and performances as well. So a little bit about me. I'm a social media marketing specialist by day and an author at night. I've got a supernatural thriller out called No Rest for the Wicked. And I'm also a general busybody here at the Arts Centre. I do what is needed. So first off, we're going to have a look at 11 writing tips and tricks. So we're going to recap as well. So last time we had a writing challenge, which was Halloween, which we've had a few entries for. We had Saqib Desmuk as well, who's a local High Wycombe author. He came in to talk about research, his journey as a writer, and about his trilogy of books as well. We also launched this book idea that we have where we're going to do a different theme each month with a writing challenge and put it all together into a book at the end. We also had some writing activities and some performances as well. So on to those 11 tips and tricks then. So the first is dramatic irony, which is a type of irony that is expressed through art. And it's when the reader, or the viewer in some cases, knows something that the character doesn't, and it can create different emotions that clash. So the character feels one thing and the reader feels another. So for example, tension or humour. So a very basic example of this is, you know, in a pantomime when you shout "he's behind you" because the audience knows something that the character doesn't. And Shakespeare is often credited as the master of dramatic irony. Now this trick's one that I use if I've got a bit of writer's block, and basically it's just get a list of sort of 6 to 10 random words and write something that includes them in your chosen format, whether you're a songwriter, a poet, a novelist. It can be a great way to get started. An alternative is to write some words down and to get someone to pick them out of a bag for you, or well, you can do that yourself, or you can ask a friend to give you some words, or you can Google random word generator. There are plenty out there that you can use. Shifted elements, this is a fun one. So this is when something's unexpected, particularly as part of a phrase, and it allows you as the writer to play with the expectations of your readers. So for example, he played the piano beautifully, delicately, artistically, magically, and aggressively. So aggressively contrasts with the rest of the items in the list. Or eat, drink and be merry becomes eat, drink and pick a designated driver. It's something that you're not expecting as a reader. Okay, now we're on to showing, not telling, which is a big thing that our lecturers at uni used to go on about all the time. So telling would be saying, I saw the lifeguard rescue someone at the swimming pool. Whereas showing is, I walked across the damp tiles, the smell of chlorine hit my nose. I won't go on, but you can see the difference. Showing is allows the reader to pull the pieces together themselves, and telling is sort of a quick summary or a generalization, and it's kind of considered to be lazy, except in journalism when it's all about telling and getting the information off as efficiently as possible. So then we've got the 4 virtues of writing. So we've got detail, which is use detail wherever possible. Detail helps. Directness, so avoid tautology or circumlocution, which in itself that's a tautology because both words kind of mean the same. Basically it means don't beat around the bush, which is another, actually that's more of a cliche. So keep your writing as short and to the point as possible, basically. Economy of words, which ties in with directness really, and it is, use as few words as possible to get your point across. And then the 4th is voice, which is the unique style that the author has. Something else to have a play with is defamiliarization, which essentially some things become so familiar that we no longer notice them, and this is called habitualization. And some writers think that writing exists to recover these perceptions that we used to have. So defamiliarization is the art of making things unfamiliar. So avoid words that are associated with a subject and come up with alternatives to it. And the idea behind this is literature isn't meant to be skimmed through, and in the same way that art isn't meant to be glanced at, you need to kind of focus on it to get the most out of it. So that brings us on to metaphors, metonyms and synecdoches, and they're all very similar, but I'm going to try to explain the difference. So a metaphor is transferring characteristics of one thing to another, so the back porch of my mind. A metonym is when something is referred to in terms of something it's associated with. So lend me your ears means listen to me. And then a synecdoche is when part of something is substituted for the whole, so biting the hand that feeds. And there's intertext, so that's when one piece of text quotes another, and it can be used to great effect. And so there are some examples below that I've got just from lyrics, but you see it everywhere, you know, film shows quoting books, and, you know, it's all around us really now. There's no such thing as an original idea. When it comes to copyright, this is an interesting one. So who owns your writing? And this depends. So if you're working for a publisher, so as a full-time journalist, for example, or for me as a content writer, your work belongs to your employer. If you're freelancing, the article belongs to you unless you sign away the copyright. So as a freelancer, you effectively license out or rent out your work to publishers. But it depends. You need to check your contract if you get one. Libel as well. I thought I'd go into the legal side of things. So libel is a defamatory statement in a permanent form. So the written word will count as this. And basically the definition I could find, it exposes the recipient to hatred, ridicule or contempt. And you don't need to identify the person by name. If it's obvious who you're referring to, it's still potentially libelous. And you can be accidentally libelous, even with like grammar mistakes. So there's an example below where the placement of a comma dramatically changes the meaning of a sentence. Another idea to bypass writer's block is to change the way that you write. So there are different ways of writing, whether you write by hand or a computer, on a mobile phone. I know Saqib does that, our last guest speaker. Speaking into a dictaphone or using a typewriter, anything you can think of. So now we come on to the marketing tips and tricks. So first up, we've got business cards. So you should get some printed for yourself as a writer, because they're great for when you attend events. Stuff like this, events like this, you can give them out. You can get some for less than £10, including delivery, including using stuff like Vistaprint, which if you just Google, you can find out more about that. Include your social networking links, your website, I haven't put that on here, your email address and your phone number as well, just so people can find you. And include a buy link for your books if they're available. Coming on to logos and branding, so it's worth considering creating a logo. It may be something that suits you and it might not be. As a writer, you are a brand, so you need to think about what colours do you use, what kind of language do you use, what kind of images do you post to kind of represent yourself and your work. People should be able to recognise you from your style. And you can achieve this through the look and feel of your social networking profiles and through your website updates, as well as through your actual writing style. And that feeds onto consistency, where consistency is paramount across everything, all areas of your career as a writer. Thinking of images on social networking sites, so use the same profile picture, the same header images, same pictures on your posts that you do on your website as you do on social. Use the same bio, post at the same time. If you're writing a weekly blog post, post it every Sunday, for example, so people know when to expect it. Networking as well, so some of our guest speakers have already touched on this in their talks. Basically, get out there and make friends. You need to meet other writers, otherwise you're going to find it hard to progress in the industry. And the internet and social networking really help this. Twitter's a great one. If you're not using things like that, then you're going to get left behind. I mean, I think, put down here, I reckon about 60% of my book sales are to other authors who I know, but, you know, I read their books as well. And niches. So niches are your friend. And a niche is a comfortable or suitable position in life or employment. So, for example, Saqib, our last guest speaker, he writes about High Wycombe. Nobody else can write about High Wycombe like he can, because he's done all of the research and he's positioned himself in that kind of niche. So what is it that you've got to offer that nobody else can? Also, writing in niches makes it easier for people to find you in search engines as well, because there's less competition. So that's that for that. We will have a writing challenge, or we will have had one, depending on when you're watching this, where we're going to do some live writing in the church. So there's going to be a starting point, absorb the atmosphere of the church, incorporate elements of what you see around you and write something. You can write any genre, alone or in groups. And the starting point is a caretaker checking that the church is empty before he locks up. He calls out, is anyone there? And from somewhere there comes a reply, no. Then we've got editing workshops. Then Lorraine's going to do a writing activity, and I've got no idea what she's got planned, but it's worked well in the last one when she did one. Then we're going to hear from Elaine Will. Obviously, I can't tell you what she's about to talk about. I know that she's going to have a gallery of images from her graphic novels, so I assume that's what she's presenting from, so that'll be fun. Then the break, obviously. The theme for this month is childhood. So again, all interpretations welcome, any genre, any length, and send it through to me at dane.cobain@booktrope.com before the next session to be considered. And then we'll have readings. And then the guest speaker for the next one, theoretically, is I'll be talking about my career as a writer, and we'll have Hannah Parkinson, who is one of my ex-colleagues, coming in to talk about marketing. So thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and we'll see you soon in a future recap video.